What's good, everybody? NFL free agency in full effect. The Saints were actually able to land a high name, high value free agent yesterday. Safety Justin Reed, coming over from the Kansas City Chiefs, started his career for the Houston Texans, was good with them, was phenomenal with the Chiefs, Super Bowl champion, and now he comes over to the New Orleans Saints. And I think he instantly makes this defense better. He's a very good tackler, and he's a guy you can stick in the center field that will make plays on the ball. Huge fan of this move, and apparently the Saints had competition. I think the Eagles wanted to sign him, and the Titans wanted to sign him, and a couple of other teams. And for once, the Saints actually won out on a very good player, right? So Justin Reed going to make an instant impact to the defense that Brandon Staley wants to play. But this signing kind of did pose a good question that I came across on Twitter, right? And the question was this: it came from Dat Boy Wolf. He's one half of the Saints Block Party podcast. Go check them out. Says, who is the best player on the Saints defense right now? And I'm thinking like, wow, that's actually a really good question, and it's not a great thing that it's a good question. I guess in a sense it could be, because if you had like so many great players, you can't pick one. But in this case, it's like you got like kind of a lack of talent, so it makes it hard to pick one. So here was my answer right here. I said probably still Demario. Reed would be next, and then slot Alante. Now, for a bigger picture of who all is actually on the Saints defense right now, um, here we go. This picture right here. So, you got Carl Granderson, who is a good player in his own. You got Saunders. You got Brian Bresee, who led the team in sacks last year, although most of those sacks were, cleanup sacks or coverage sacks. Um, Cam Jordan, who we know isn't the same player as he once was. Hall of Fame career, but let's just be honest. Pete Werner, who I think really had high potential at one point, but has suffered some injuries and just hasn't quite looked the same as his potential once maybe showed us, right? Demario Davis. Now, here's who I picked as still the Saints' best player on defense, because I just think that a lot of people say that he fell off last year, and I don't think fall off would be the word to use. Lost a half a step, maybe. I wouldn't even say he lost a step. I'd say maybe a half a step. But Demario Davis losing half a step still makes him a very good player, and I think next year or this upcoming season, he's going to be excited to show us what he still has. So he's my pick as far as right now, as still being the Saints' best player. And then you got left cornerback Alante Taylor. Now, Alante Taylor, just for those who don't remember, was having an excellent season in the slot last year before he had to bump back outside. And again, like, yes, it is still playing cornerback, but it is completely different positions, right? It's you're asked to do totally different things. You have to have a totally different skill set. And when you have to bounce back and forth like that, it kind of just takes away from what you've been learning and what you've been focusing on. So slot Alante Taylor was my answer for who would probably be number three in terms of the best players on the Saints defense. And I hope next year he gets a chance to do that, to bump back in the slot. Now, that would require the Saints to add somebody, unless they plan on rolling with. We know Kool-Aid McKinstry is going to be one of the outside cornerbacks. We assume, right? But I feel like that's going to be the guy, at least one half of the outside. Now, Rico Payton is the other guy they have right now, undrafted free agent last year. Showed some flashes in preseason games and training camps. Like, do they go into the season with him as a starter? I don't know if that would be the case, right? I think that they would probably just to keep Alante Taylor out there before they did that. But I'm hopeful that they can bump Alante back in, but that would require them to go out and either draft somebody pretty high, or pick up somebody that they would be confident sticking on the outside there. So, and then Justin Reed, obviously discussed him earlier, coming over from Kansas City. I think he instantly becomes the second best player on this defense. I do. I still think he's young enough. He's only 28 years old. He's been on a couple teams, but again, still 28 years old, can still make plays. Proved that last year. Had one of the better years of his career last year, and I think again he instantly becomes probably the second best player on the Saints defense. Then you got Tyron Matthew, who just decided he's staying with New Orleans. Um, he's obviously still a very serviceable player. Now, if this was like 5, 6 years ago, obviously Tyron Matthew would have an argument for being the number one spot here, right? But I think at this point in his career, he's just a guy who his leadership, it can't be replaced, right? And he's still pretty good on the field. He's a ball hawk. He's a ball magnet. He knows he may not have the athletic prowess as he used to, or the athletic, step that he used to, but he could still find his way to the ball because of all the experience he has and his knowledge of the game. And again, Kool-Aid McKinstry, young player, don't really know a ton about yet. Showed some good things last year, but also showed some things that he needs to clean up. Ugo Amadi right now is who they have listed in this chart here as the nickel cornerback. Had to step in there last year and played a bunch when Lattimore and Adebo weren't on the team anymore, or Lattimore traded, Adebo hurt, but he stepped in and played the slot. He definitely not a guy you want starting for you. We'll leave it at that. Isaiah Foskey. I mean, do I even have to say anything? Like, come on. Devon Gottschall, again, rotational defensive piece that'll be key to help stopping the run next year. Nathan Shepard, definitely not the best player on the defense. Chase Young, um, no. I know he just re-signed, but come on. Willie Gay Jr. This is a guy that I thought would have a bigger role than he did last year, and who knows, maybe in this Brandon Staley offense, they stick him out at outside linebacker, and he rushes the passer some and drops back into coverage some. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do see an increased role for him next year under Brandon Staley's offense. But obviously, he's not the best player on the defense. Marco Jackson, no. Rico Payton, we just talked about him. Jordan Howden at the safety position, no. JT Gray, special teams excellence. Shout out to JT Gray. Doesn't get the recognition that he deserves. Most special teams players don't, but it is a crucial part of the game. It can flip a game just like that. So shout out to JT Gray. Gene, no. Shamar, no. John Ridgeway, defensive lineman, no. Passanel, good rotational player. I'm glad he's staying with New Orleans, but no. I don't even know who this is. I'm going to be honest. Cameron Peterson? Who is that? I have no clue who that is. Just being 100% honest. Nephi Sewell. Listen, I'm going to tell you guys right now, I am a fan of Nephi Sewell. Like, every time this guy gets a chance to be on the field, even last year after coming back from his injury, he makes splash plays, right? It seems like he's maybe a tad undersized for what he's for his position, but it doesn't matter because he shows flashes. I'm glad that he decided, or that the Saints decided to bring him back, because that's a young player I like, and that I wouldn't be surprised ends up getting significant snaps for the Saints this year. Obviously as long as he can stay healthy. Anthony Orgy is a guy who also has shown flashes at that position. Don't know who that is. And Christian Boyd is a guy last year, defensive lineman. I think we'll see him also in a bigger role this year. Drafted in the later rounds last year. I think that hopefully he worked on his game, because he was very, very raw last year, and that was expected when you take a guy right at that point in the draft. But I'm excited to see what he can do this year on the field. Jalen Ford's another guy, linebacker, that I'm excited to see the step that he's taken, and then this guy, another guy I've never heard of. So all in all, like, who do you guys think is the best player? On the Saints defense? It's a really good question, and it's kind of sad that there's not really a cut and dry answer. But again, that's just kind of the point that we're at right now, trying to build this thing back up. But taking a look at some of these answers, let's see. Yeah, we got the Kurt Angle gif. Like, can't even pick, man. A lot of people saying Justin Reed, which is a totally acceptable answer right there. I think, between him and Demario Davis for sure. Reed easily. He's only 28. He's a centerpiece now. I think Alante in the star role, which is nickel or at safety, would be clear cut the best player on defense. But as of this moment, Demario, again, can't argue with Demario. That's who I would pick right now as well. And you can see like everybody is just kind of picking, Justin Reed. Crazy thing is, it might still be Demario. I think you're correct, my friend. Crazy indeed. Kool-Aid, no, definitely not the best player on defense right now. After he takes that leap with Bo, it's going to be Bresee. Listen, I would love to see Brian Bresee take that next step, because, listen, he did have, six and a half sacks last year. Again, most of them were cleanup sacks, but you don't get to the quarterback that many times by luck, right? So you have to have some kind of skill involved, and I think he does. I think, I'm really excited to see him with a new defensive line coach, because from what I gather, the players weren't a huge fan of the defensive line coach last year, and it showed, because we've seen Brian Bresee in his rookie year pull out that spin move and it work a bunch of times, but we hardly even seen him go for that last year, and it just seems like they were really stuck, in a bag of not being able to do what they wanted to do in terms of the defensive line, because again, as soon as Darren Rizzi comes in and he switches things up on the coaching staff, Even Cam Jordan's play improved over the last half of the season, or the last quarter or so of the season. So this guy says Reed, then Chase Young. Again, I mean, you can't really go wrong with that either. Carl Granderson. Listen, Carl Granderson, that's another player that you can bring up. Really good player. Saints paid him a couple years ago. Do I think he's the best? I would still go with Demario Davis. So, I mean, as you can see, people are going with Demario or Justin Reed, which is my first two picks. Pretty sad that the Saints don't exactly have like a player that you can point to and say like, "Hey, duh, this guy's the best player on the field." But that is the state of the Saints at this point in time. But am excited about the Justin Reed signing. I really do think that he can impact the defense immediately. Not a guy that's going to have to come in and have a learning curve or anything like that. Because again, veteran, been on multiple teams, and what I like about him is, so this is his third team. I like that he was very good in both of his stops. Like he was really good in Houston and he was really good in Kansas City. So now New Orleans Saint, although it would be such a New Orleans Saint thing to do for him to come in and just be like nothing like he should be. Appreciate you guys watching. Peace.